respected figure and one of my favorite pain specialists, Siddharth Verma.
Thank you for the opportunity in this august audience and with such great speakers whom I learn from every day. So, transdermal endoscopic discectomy. I think this topic is a little, as Dr. Sai mentioned, there are no scopes now. There are only approaches. So we have also graduated, but then this is a legacy thing, which we had for about 8 years, which or maybe even more, almost a decade. That whether we should do inside out and outside in. So I have got a different take on it. I understand that there will be some new guys here who are seeing this for the first time. So I have tried to cover it up for everybody. And greetings from Mumbai. This is our hospital where I do most of my cases. And some of our uh, past fellows are here. So hi, all of you. You are the reason why I could learn even more. So whenever we get a patient, things are not very simple in terms of techniques. There are a lot of options available to the patient also, and as a result, there are a lot of options available to the physician also, because we are now essentially helping them, and the position of authority is no longer there. So traditionally, how things progress is, जिसको जो आता है वो वही करता है ना. So they start with the if you go to a guy who is probably a little early in their careers, so they will do less complicated procedures. Of course, they will have less results also in most cases, because they may not be ideal, and that's the reason for variable outcomes traditionally. So as the physician goes ahead in his career, his level of complexity of cases it increases, and as Dr. Sai explained very simply, he can explain tough things in a very simple manner. So it's not only about two paths. There will be multiple paths like this, and it's very tough to decide. अभी अंगूर खाना है कि कब का खाना है, it's very tough sometimes. And somebody says, okay, then we decide, okay, this will have high glycemic index and this will have low, this is natural, unnatural. Same thing happens to the techniques also. And which bullet you fire, it is dependent on which one do you have. If you don't have a bullet, you cannot fire it, right? So with these backgrounds, I will try to explain why we are going to discuss about endospine, why anesthetist, what's the decision, it is a technique or the patient, how do we decide, a little bit of algorithm, learning curve, my personal opinion and summary. So my talk will be made easy by, I think, if Dr. Kiran is here, he can, I think, present in his this thing why endospine and why anesthesiologist you can learn in this talk. But about the decision making, I will try to make things a little simpler. So it's not about the approach which you take always, whether you go from inside out or you go from outside in. So first, let me explain what are these techniques. So my talk will focus on transforaminal routes, but I will give you an overview of the interlaminar as well. So the OT setup is the same. Herein, it's a general surgeon setup which he uses for laparoscopy. There's no major difference other than the fact that you have a C-arm which is there. And initially, I used to do too many shoots, but as my various mentors taught me, and now it's like quite less. So C-arm is required less and less as you progress. And I'll explain the technique of inside out a little more detailed, and then outside in is just a slight modification you can plan. So this was the diagram which was taught earlier, and it is a very good diagram to understand for, if you want to understand the anatomy coming from anesthesia or pain background, and makes the access quite easy. So you make the patient prone. Some people use good positioning bolsters, etc. But the key is always to have a straight spine, hip flexion. In transfemoral endoscopy, you want a little bit of lordosis to help you to reach certain levels. So all that is done, and then of course you draw the discal line so that you end in a trajectory which is parallel to the disc. And of course you draw your lateral margin, you check the muscle margin, and you enter with a needle. And upon a needle, you put in a dilator, you put your sleeve, and the first entry point here where your camera opens, it opens to this view, which is an intradiscal view, and thereon you can proceed. Either you can go inside this disc and do your work, or you can come out, do your annular work. In fact, you can even come out from there and do whatever you want with the foramen also, facet also, SAP also. So as I mentioned, it's not about the scope, but it's about the approach. So this is a cadaveric dissection picture. If you see, this is the dorsal approach, and this is the traditional approach, or even the interlaminar approach. And this, if you see, is the approach where a transforaminal scope goes in, and this is the transforaminal approach. And here you are seeing that the area which is, you don't need to cut any bone, that's the advantage, but then you have neural structures to protect. So you use the technique to make sure that you don't injure this nerve when you get inside. Once you are inside, you can do a little bit of manipulation, although this figure exaggerates, that's now how much you will be able to move. But then just to show you how much you can do with the help of using a facet as a lever. And why it was initially heralded as a safer technique was because since you are in the disc to start with, you can damage less. But then one size doesn't fit all, so the other approach which was followed was where in cases where you have some bony work to do, where the trajectory does not allow you to treat the pathology, and that's how the outside in started. And it was actually popularized by various different guys with costly reamers, and then an Indianized version of the reamers was also available, which we started using. And here the trick was to enter in the, when you land and when you open the first view, you are inside, you are not inside the disc, but rather you are in the foramen, you are near the some bone which you want to drill or something like that. So the major difference which is there is where you land and what you see in your first view. So you could tackle much more complicated pathologies, access old discs much better, because traditionally you think that you will put in a forceps and you will pull it out and all the disc will come out nicely herniated disc, but this can happen only in fresh cases. If you get older discs and complicated ones, then it's actually not going to happen. So there was a little bit of confusion there, and many authors, many of us and many guys in this part of the world, they tried to put in the algorithm. So one good attempt was made by Dr. Padgaonkar and team. So this was one of the first approach which kind of tried to simplify it and place it on kind of an algorithm. And this also became very popular amongst those of us who were doing operating that time. And the key was not just to weigh between inside out and outside in, but also to decide the approach in whether you want to go interlaminar or whether you want to go transforaminal. And this utilized the facet angle, anterior pathology, posterior pathology, dorsal migration, inferior migration, superior migration. This was the acronym which was made, and this helped tailor approach to the MRI. So so what was done was the scoring system was made, and on the basis of which the score was given. So this was a transforaminal versus interlaminar battle, and it was like a India-Pakistan match, but so जो जीत गया उसको trophy मिलेगा, like that. So so this is how it was made, but it had its some limitations. It was a little complicated for beginners to understand, and for each case to implement. That's why there were very few follow-up papers on this with comparisons, including this technique versus the standard one. There were also other algorithms which included the FABDE, which included functional status, axial versus radicular pain. So here the takeaway was that clinical profile plus imaging was used to decide the optimal approach. But that is not how most clinicians decide. So there are other factors also. So amongst which the patient factors are the most important, which include the symptoms which patient comes with. So somebody can have a big herniation, but there are no symptoms, which the patient has, which so the body has well adjusted to it. And if you don't take care of the patient's current symptoms, definitely any future things won't be counted. So that's very important. Then there was radiology. So there could be various types of herniation as per those herniations, and you had to use the appropriate techniques. Then the number of levels was also very important. If somebody takes 2 hours, 2.5 hours to do a procedure, and the OT time, the cost, the number of levels, the prognosis. So few people started doing multiple sittings for these patients. So पहली बार आए L5S1 कर दिया, next time आए L4-5 कर दिया, next time आए L3-4 कर दिया. It was like that. And few people, they wanted to tackle everything in one go. Few people found laminectomy was simpler, so they will just refer to a surgeon. So this was how it was. Then there was also goals and biopsychosocial factors from the patient size. So patient will say, no, I don't want any surgery. I just want to be pain free. So आपने steroid डाल दिया, patient pain free हो गया. And then that is also one of this thing. And of course, the financial feasibility of the patient to afford this was also very important. So I'll give you an example of how it actually happens in the real world. So you'll get this kind of patient. For those of you who are new, I have given this legend on your left side. So if I ask, how many of you are practicing pain physicians here or practicing clinicians who are seeing patients and doing them? Okay, most of you, right? So, so you get this patient. So I am very sure that for this patient, each of you will have a different solution. Somebody will say, we'll give some transforaminal because patient is walking, there is no motor weakness. So let us give a transforaminal epidural injection and let the patient go to home. So this is something how we decide on probably the patient factors. The disc can be like this, and somebody can say, okay, the patient doesn't have symptoms, he only has sometimes tingling, numbness, and then everything is justifiable. So it is often not as simple as this algorithm says or some other algorithm says. So this can be the L5S1 situation in a symptomatic patient like this, an annular tear like this, probably some amount of phlegm hypertrophy along with the little bit of bulge at 360 compression. Whatever situation happens, this can be a left-sided symptom for this patient and many more. So there can be n number of situations, and you need to change your decision, you need to change your approach, your trajectory, your technique according to that. Similarly, you can have this kind of a severe stenosis also, which can also be at multiple levels. Now what you will do? So 5 level stenosis, probably somebody like Dr. Sai can do 4 levels, maybe one day he'll come, morning wash up, 4 levels finish, 3 hours done. And somebody like me who takes 2 hours to do 1 level, so maybe I cannot do this in one day. So something like this is also dependent on various factors. So I have told you about algorithms, I have told you why all algorithms don't work and why we will still not adopt algorithms, but at least we should know them. Then comes the last part of my presentation where I'll focus on the aim. What is your aim? Is your aim like one of my last patients? This was the pre-procedure picture, and you can see this was the post one, this was the pre one, post one. I used interlaminar approach, pre-procedure, post-procedure. So whether your aim is to get a good MRI or whether your aim is just to get a happy patient. So it all depends on various situations, and ideally there should be a combination of both. Then only you can have all this in a good factor. So putting it all together, you decide the suitability, choose the route first, and that is a technique first, and then choose how you want to go inside out and outside in, depending on the pathology. Intra-op findings or inter-procedure finding may shift the plan, so stay very flexible. Tailored path improves safety and outcome. Of course, structure your choice, but stay dynamic. So this was one of the initial times and initial days. So I have deliberately put this picture because this was somebody was saying three chips camera and all that, and I was saying that this is the kind of setups which we were working with, and it was very tough for us to get a very high quality cameras and all that thing. So sometimes not only the camera is important, cable is important, then the chip is important, lot of stuff is important. We started with putting the dies, and so we were told that okay, you can differentiate different types of discs, whether it is one to be taken out or whether it is vital, whatever. And this is how we started. But now things have changed a lot. You saw the PSLD images which Dr. Sai showed. So very important part is safety and complications. I am just done, sir. Last slide. So this is very important because everything is incomplete if you are unsafe. So a training, good mentor. This is not you cannot learn it from YouTube. You need somebody to handhold you and then patiently teach you. You will irritate that fellow, but then ultimately at the end of it, you both will be satisfied. Of course, there is also a collaboration. And as anesthesiologist background, physicians, you can use sedation, local skills to enhance safety and also treat complications which are very easy for you to manage, like, patient has a facet pain later on, patient has a radicular pain later on. You can manage all that with a lot of arrows in your quiver. So you can start with simple cases. If you want to do a transfemoral, start with L4-5 paracentral protrusions. So fluoro skills apply directly to the targeting. And the last point, you're already halfway there. Now you must add the scope to your practice to make the things complete. With these words, I thank you very much and welcome you to Mumbai sometime for our learning programs. Thank you.
A very good presentation, Siddharth. As usual, you are very fluent and very honest in admitting that you can do 1 level and Sai Dilip can do 4 level. And
He's teaching me every day.
and our next speaker.
So last question, what's your opinion on your own personal learning skill for endoscopic discectomy, being an anesthesiologist?
Yeah, so when I started, it was quite tough, and we were told to follow particular techniques and particular gods of endoscopy. That time it was a person-owned domain rather than a patient-owned domain. Now it has become patient-specific, and a lot of things have it's become like how AI is there now. So initially when it came, it was like only ChatGPT was there. Now every second day you see one Chinese guy coming up with a new thing. So it is democratized. So now it is very easy for all pain physicians to start and implement it. But the key here is you should be very, very safe. The safety should be most important, because if you are unsafe, you do the wrong indication, you cannot be saved. So you should do a proper MRI pre-procedure, post-procedure MRI. Try to learn from your mistake. Under a mentor, you can associate with them, and you can be the assistant surgeon in initial cases. And later on, you can take away the metal. You can also know whether it is for you. All of us will not do it, but that doesn't make you less of a physician or less of a doctor. So you can, like for example, anesthesia, we don't do all techniques. Everybody doesn't like regional. So same way, many people will not do endoscopy, but that's perfectly fine. That doesn't make you a doctor. So I feel that should be the approach, and then you can start slowly and build it up. But definitely one thing I would like to tell you, use good instruments, good places, good mentors, so that you can have good results for your patients. Thank you very much.
Likewise, local anesthesia for so long, prone position, do you prefer any sedation and regional anesthesia?
So now when I started, I was doing everything under local anesthesia, and somehow I could manage. There was not even one patient who cancelled their procedure because of local anesthesia. But I think to start with initial cases, GA is much better. But of course, it's a personal choice. Some of our colleagues, some senior ones, they use local anesthesia for all sort of endoscopies. So it ends to a personal choice. Of course, you need to have a fixed place. Don't go from multiple centers, multiple places initially till you are, have done your initial 30-40 cases. Then you can probably think of doing that. That will make the game easier for you.
Thank you very much, sir.